Hello ATS 315 students, Dr. Shragi here, and today we're going to learn about making a web page. First off, why are we doing this? This is a programming class. Why are we making web pages? Well, here's the deal. The tools that we're going to be using to write computer programs for the rest of the course, things like VI and moving files around and stuff like that, and adjusting permissions as you'll be seeing, to be honest, you need practice with those first. And whereas programs are going to be very fussy in terms of exactly when you're writing your C programs, exactly how everything has to be, as it happens, HTML, the language that we use when we are writing computer programs, is actually not very fussy. It tolerates a lot of mistakes. It doesn't have to be so neatly formatted, etc. So, and besides, everybody likes knowing about how websites work and stuff like that, some of the basic tools of how websites work. And so, let me show you a little bit about how websites and web servers work, and you'll get a little bit of practice and you can make a web page, and then you'll do a little assignment about this, but honestly you'll be able to do whatever you want on Chesapeake. If you want to write all kinds of programs, go crazy. So here's the deal. You've heard this term web server. What is a web server? Sometimes people mean it to mean like the computer that's doing the web server, the web serving. Like for example, I have Chesapeake. That computer that we're using is under the desk right here. And sometimes people would describe that as a web server. Strictly speaking, though, the web server is actually a computer program that is running on this computer that will send out or serve files when they are requested by the client. The client is the browser on your end, the laptop, your smartphone, whatever, which sends out a request, http:// whatever, and then that request comes to this computer and it decides what to serve, what to send out, what file to send to the other end. In our case, here on Chesapeake, I'm running a server called Apache 2. Apache 2 is a completely free web server. You can even get versions of Apache 2 that run on things like your laptop and so on. You can even do it on a Mac, you can even do it on a PC. I'm not going to show you how to do it because you can do all kinds of scary things with this if you wanted to. I've heard you can even run a web server on like a smartphone. All of which sounds really horrifying for your data plan, but whatever. But anyway, here on Chesapeake, also known as shragij.ddns.net, we are actually running Apache 2, and I have configured Apache 2 so that it understands that I want each of you in this class to have your own website. Sitting inside of your home directory, you're going to be able to have files in the language HTML that will produce a page. Now your page could be as little and uninspiring as just, you know, a few words of text, but odds are you're going to want to have more fun with it than that, because I taught this class lots of times. I know what students tend to do with this. So, but you're going to be able to set up accounts, set up all kinds of interesting stuff on your website. Now, where are these files going to be? Well, you're going to want to put them inside of your public let's be more clear about that. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of files on Chesapeake. The vast majority of them I really don't want to share with the rest of the world. You're going to have all kinds of files in your account, you know, your assignment files and so on associated with your... Odds are that's not what you want to share to the world either. You have just certain things you want to share. That's definitely the case of any, like, you know, computer at a business or something like that. My wife's dental practice has a web server. Obviously they don't want things like people's dental records to be on that machine. Only files that are in a particular directory are going to be shareable. They're the only ones that the file server, Apache 2, is going to be willing to share. And as it happens, I have it configured so that what's going to happen is you're going to make yourself a directory called public_HTML, and only things that are inside that directory will Apache 2 be willing to share. If you don't want to share it, don't put it in public HTML. Okay, it's public_HTML. That is something that can be configured, by the way. If someday at a job they're telling you, oh, put it in a directory called www instead, yeah, that's just a setting in when I set up Apache 2. Public HTML tends to be the directory when you're talking about like student accounts. There's a reason behind that, but we're just going to use that name. Now, when someone asks for a web page, when you go to CNN.com or whatever you go to, by default, the web server is going to have a page, a file that it's going to send to you. Which one will it be? Well, by default, if there's no other instructions, if you didn't tell them you want CNN.com/weather.html, if you didn't tell it explicitly which HTML file you want, by default, it'll send a file called index.html. Why index.html? Again, it's just a setting inside of Apache 2. I could have set it to be default HTML, or I could have set it to Ben hold the mustard.html. Index.html is what it traditionally is, so we are sticking with that. And that is the web page. The web page is this file called index.html that is sitting in the public HTML directory. You will write a file called index.html that will produce a web page. It's going to be so hard. So you're all going to have web pages just like all of this here. Now, when you look at an address on a website, there is the fully qualified name of where this machine is. In this case, this particular computer out here is shroggij.ddns.net. It just happens to be my provider, how they do it. My login is shroggij, so they made my machine shroggij.ddns.net. When I asked them if I could have Chesapeake, they looked at me like, well, then why didn't you make your account called Chesapeake? Oh, well, whatever, life's short. Okay, so that is the name. If you go to Creighton's website, www.creighton.edu, there is a machine, hypothetically anyway, if they have it set up nicely, there's a machine at Creighton whose name is www. .creighton.edu is the domain. The machine's name is www. Long time ago, for example, in atmospheric sciences, we had a computer that was our web server in the atmospheric science department called Flare. And if you went to flare.creighton.edu, you got our website. Anyway, so there's the domain, creighton.edu, cnn.com, whatever, ddns.net, and then the name of the computer is to the left of that. In this case, again, my internet service provider thinks my computer's name is shroggij, and I'm not going to fight them on that. Then, to get to your web page, to the right of the slash, you're going to put a tilde and your login. So if you want to make a web page and then share it with your friends and family, tell them that the address is http://shroggij.ddns.net/tilde and then your login, whatever your net ID or whatever we're using is. And that will work. And then feel free to, use Google or Bitly or any of those kind of services if you want to give yourself a shorter address. I don't care. Now, what are the HTML files itself? I mean, you're going to create a file inside a public_HTML that is going to be called index.html, and it is going to be a file that contains instructions that your browser is going to use to render the page the way you are on the screen. So those are the verbs I want you to understand here. It's going to render on the page. The HTML file that you're creating will look nothing like a web page. I'm going to bust out of this for a second and show you something. I'm going to bring up a browser over here. Okay, here I happen to have, I'm so sorry, but it's Drudge Report. I hate that website, but they happen to have fairly simple examples of HTML. If I just happen to dig around here in Developer, show you the page source here. Okay, this is what their current index.html file looks like. And it's got all this stuff in it. Now this is more sophisticated than yours is going to be. It's hard to imagine the Drudge Report website being the more sophisticated one, but it is. But they have all kinds of fancy stuff buried in here. But it gives you a basic idea here. The index.html file is just a text file that has instructions about how to render what you're going to see on the screen. For example, these instructions that you're seeing up here are all examples where it is showing on the page screen. It'll show something like Real Clear Politics. I don't know if you can read this on the video player. And then this is the web page you go to if you click on the words Real Clear Politics. Some of this other stuff, for example, is describing what font or how large or whether or not to center the text or to put text in columns and so on. And again, I mean, this is a professional website, so it's fairly complicated stuff, but you'll see a pattern if you start looking at this website. You'll see that there's like these little instructions in angle brackets. Like there's like angle brackets, like the less than and the greater than symbol. Angle brackets BR, or there's an angle brackets A, or there's an angle brackets center, CENTER, and so on. You'll start seeing the pattern of these things. Those are called tags, and we're going to be seeing lots of examples of how to work with tags. Let me switch back over here. So the text of what's going to appear on your page is what's in the index.html file, and then there are these tags tags that are going to be describing what the page, how it should be rendered. What should it look like? What should it be centered? What the font size should be? Things like that. Now, modern web pages like Drudge Report or Creighton.edu or whatever are incredibly complicated. Okay, they have enormous sets of these kind of commands to make it render beautifully on different sizes of screens, on mobile devices, whatever. But the basics of how it actually works is not really all that complicated. I mean, all it basically contains is text. The text that you want to appear on the screen, plus these tags that are these things, the little angle brackets, that are describing how the text should look. Is it centered? What font is it in? What color is it in? How big is it? Stuff like that. As well as other tags that provide information about things like what images should be in there as well. There'll be tags in there that say, also download this image from the server and put it right here at this size or whatever. We'll be seeing these basics of tags. Are we going to make a website as complicated as CNN.com or Facebook or something like that? No. But we are going to be able to see the basics of how it works. We're not creating a masterpiece here, but we are learning how Paint works. Okay? We're just barely learning the basics of, oh look, I get it, and get a little exercise working with things like VI and stuff like that to do it. So let me show you how this is going to work. We're going to do some basics of some tags in HTML. So like if my HTML file just contained the word hello, and then I loaded it, it would in the browser just look like the word hello. Okay? In a default font, at a default size, not centered, all that kind of good stuff. If I put tags around it that say B is HTML for bold. So angle brackets B means start making things bold, and then HELLO, and then look what I've got there. Angle brackets /B means end the bold. So after that, nothing else is bold anymore, and on my screen, it would render in bold now. This is a pattern. Most HTML tags work in pairs. There'll be a tag that has the command in it that describes how I want things to change, and then stuff will happen, and then there'll be another tag with a slash in it that means end doing that, like end making it bold. So for example, if I wanted that word center, I would put tag angle brackets center. It doesn't have to, I'm writing there like it has to be capital letters, but it's not case sensitive. It could be, you wouldn't have to be capital letters. Center, hello, and then slash, another tag with a slash in it, center, means end centering, and the word hello appears centered on the screen. You can nest the tags, like it could say center bold hello, unbold uncenter, and that would work, and you get a bold word centered on the page. You could make the font bigger using the big tag. You could make the font even bigger by nesting big tags, big hello. There are ways, by the way, to actually explicitly say what font size, like you want it in 36-point font or whatever, but we're not going to do that. That is, that requires a fancier set of tricks to make that work. Another thing we could do with our word here is we could italicize it. We could put tag I, hello, and then tag /I to end the italics, and it would be an italicized word. Or we could underline it with the word U, the HTML command U. So angle brackets U, hello, angle brackets /U would mean underline the things between the U and the /U. Another thing we could do here would be to break this up into lines. Now this tag doesn't necessarily have a pair with it, it's just tag BR, so angle brackets BR is like move on to the next line. Move down one line and back over to the end. So hello, angle brackets BR, how's the weather, means hello, then move on to the next line, how is the weather? You could make references to hyperlink. A stands for address, I believe. So it is address, and then we're modifying that with href, the hypertext reference, to CNN.com, and then the word hello, and then a /A to mean we're done with that, and we would have a hyperlink to that page. Before I go on and show you some color stuff and so on, let's actually do some examples of this. Let me minimize this here. Let me minimize this here for now. Alright, I'm here in my student 315 account on Chesapeake, And if I just do some here, you can see I got some stuff here. Okay, now remember, we are in my home directory. Here, I'll check with pwd. I'm in home/student315. What do I want to do with this? How about if I say, well, first I need a public HTML directory, so I better make a public HTML directory. Alright, I'm going to go into that. I'm thinking of some mistakes that I might already be making, but that's another story. And if I go in here and I create a file called index.html, alright, if I just put some text here, I just put some text here. Close enough. Just some text. That's all the HTML file contains. Index.html just contains text. Let me go ahead in my browser. I'm going to go over here and type that I want to go to shrugyj.ddns.net / the name of my account, which is in student315. I just put some text here. I don't know if you could read that on the screen on your video player. All that happened was it just rendered that text on the screen. Alright, what else could I do with that? I'll go back into there. I could make those words appear centered on the screen with a center tag and an end center tag. And again, the capitalization and stuff does not matter at all. If I go back over here then to my browser and force it to reload, notice now it centered the text on the screen. Okay, let me go back in here and I'm just going to add some more text. What will this look like? I'm just adding some words that are after the /center tag, just so you can see what's going to happen here. If I go back over here and force this to reload, then see how the stuff that is between center and /center got centered, and then what will this look like is over here flush to the left-hand side. Okay, let me show you some more things about this. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. I'm going to go back in my index.html. Here's another thing I want to show you. What will this look like? It will look like this. Alright, what was this going to look like on the screen? It looks like the words "what will this look like" will be on one line, and "it will look like this" will be on the next line. But if I actually go back over here to my web browser and render it, see how it all just appears on one long line? Okay. Just moving down to the next line doesn't make HTML render it onto the next line. You actually have to use that BR command to move to the next line. Let me move down here. This is actually part of what's brilliant about HTML. This helps HTML easily format for different devices. I mean, I could pull out my smartphone and it would look lovely on my smartphone. I could pull out a screen the size of the wall like my kid's school has, and it would look lovely up there. It easily formats to different sizes of screens, but if I literally mean move on to the next line, then I need to actually have put that BR command in there. See now, what will this look like? Break. It will look like this. Nice. Okay? And we can put other tags in here and so on. But I want to go back to the Office document here. Notice so far the page background has been white. If we wanted to change the background to a different color, then what we need to do is we need to span that area with a body command here. Body, and then BG color, and a color that we're specifying. Now this is pound and 4 Fs and 2 zeros. That is a hexadecimal representation of the color yellow. We're going to learn later in the semester all about how these kind of color representations work. And in the textbook chapter that I'm giving you there, there's some nifty tools provided as to how to actually pick these colors. Like for example, I happen to like this particular page, but like I could pick a color and then different shades of it and see how it gives me the hexadecimal reference, like this particular shade of blue and this particular shade of blue. This particular one right here is pound 4775FF. Okay, there's a way in which these color schemes work, but we'll deal with that later in the semester. So like that body tag is a nifty way to span a color. Let me go back to my my web page here. Like if I wanted to make my web page have a color, body, oops, nope, it's in a tag, body, BG color equals, alright, I will use a pink, let's see, a pink color would be, let's just try 550000, I think that's a pink. Okay, it will look like this, and then when I'm done with that, I will make it /body like that, So let's see, body, and then this is the modifier to it. It would modifying the body to have a BG color. There's other things you could do with the body, but we would have the BG color be that. Let's see if that worked. Maybe that isn't pink, I'm not sure. Let's see. Oh, well, it's ugly. It's actually kind of an ugly red. But okay, it would have worked. Just out of curiosity, let's put a different color in there. How about, just to show you here, how about if I put in, putting in a slightly, nope, that won't make any difference. What am I thinking? Okay, so 559999. Okay, that's another color. I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head what it'll be, so let's be surprised. Oh, look, it's a lovely kind of bluish green. Okay, there is a system to how those colors are named, and I can't do the math in my head right now. But I will, like I said, I've provided you with some tools, both in the book, and I can send you more for picking those colors if you like doing things like that. Okay, let's go back over here to our Office document. So that would be like how you can set the background. Again, I'm giving you a list of those kinds of websites and so on to find those colors, and we'll learn more about how those colors are due later. If you had an image like cloud.gif in your public HTML directory, you could just set the body background to be equal to cloud.gif, and it will gladly just put that in the background. That can be very hard because you often can't see very well what's going on in the background. Maybe it's a very subtle pattern or something like that that you have as your background. You could just put an image in the page too. For example, you can put this tag image, img, and then just tell it the source is cloud.gif. Now you have to have a file called cloud.gif in your public HTML directory, but this is instructions that says to the server, send them cloud.gif. And then on your browser's end, the browser is told to render it between the words hello and cloud. Okay, pretty neat. You could just have the tag there for the image itself. You could center the image with a center tag around it, etc. Where are you going to get these images? Feel free to steal them. No, not in life, but in this class, feel free to steal them from some website, take a digital picture with your camera, draw something in Paint or Illustrator or whatever. I don't care. All right. Now, some semesters I actually go through the process of making you understand how do you move the file from, say, your laptop over to Chesapeake. You know what? We got bigger fish to fry. Let's not do that this semester. Just email them to me. Okay? Email me whatever files you want to have, image files, you want to have in your public HTML directory, like if you've got some pictures of clouds or you've got a piece of clip art or something, I don't really care. Just send it to me and I will put it in the public HTML directory. There are tools, you may have heard of FTP, you may have heard of SCP. These are very powerful tools for moving files from one computer to another, but they're sufficiently different whether you're on a Mac or on a PC. They're different depending on what version of Windows you're using or what version of Mac OS. We got enough things to do this semester. Just send me the pictures via email. I'll put them on Chesapeake for you. Now, Apache 2, the web server that is on Chesapeake, will only send people files that are in your public HTML directory. That's how it's configured. Okay? Nobody can have other files that are on the computer. But you could set the permissions in such a way so that the files that are inside of your public HTML directory wouldn't be accessible either. Or you might be able to set the permissions on, say, later one of your assignments so that it's not on your web page, but maybe another student could look at how you did things, or you could share results or whatever. And in order to understand about permissions, I want to show you, remember we have this command ls space minus last. Last gives you all this information about the size of the file and whether it's a directory and its permissions and so on. Like if I just did an ls minus last on this computer right now, I happen to have a number of files. This is on a different machine, but whatever. I have a number of different files on here. Like, notice this file called Scribbles 130123 PDF. It doesn't really matter. Scribbles. Scribbles PDF is 256,000 bytes long. All right. Other files are smaller. I have an index.html file there that is only 21 bytes long at that particular time. We'll learn more about what a byte is in a different day. That Shroggy J stuff there has to do with who owns the file and who created the file. And then there's this little string at the beginning here that it contains these D's, R's, W's, X's, and dashes that describe the permissions on the file. The first symbol on there is either a D or a dash, and it tells us what this file is. Is it a directory or is it a file? Okay, remember directory is another word for like folder. So in this case, dot dot, which is the parent directory, is a D, and dot, which means the current directory, is a D. But scribbles and index.html are dash. They're a file. Okay, that surprised how often it is you don't even know what you're looking at, if that's a folder or that's a file. That helps. Now the next three symbols describe the permissions of the owner of the file. I own these files. What are my permissions on them? Okay, so for example, if there's an R, it means I have permission to read the file. If there is a W, I have permission to write the file, make changes in it, like remove it or add things to it or whatever. And if there's an X, it means I have permission to execute the file. We don't know very much about executing yet. Execute means make the file run. Like you execute word.exe to make Word run on your computer. We'll see more about executing programs later. So like for example, in the case of scribbles.pdf, I have RWX permissions. As the owner of the file, I have RWX permissions. That means I have permission to read the file, or write the file, or execute the file. You don't execute a PDF file, but I can read it or I can write it. Now, the next three symbols after that RWX are the permissions for the group. Now, there was a way on a Linux computer to define work groups where like you and the students in your team can share files and stuff like that. I don't have that set up, so let's not even worry about those three. But again, it's an RWX thing. You could set it to read the files within your group, write the files in your group, or execute the files within your group. So like if you and another student were in a group, you would give them permission that they can do things like read the file or changes to the file or whatever. The last three symbols are the most important ones because those last three symbols explain the permissions of anybody for that machine. Read, write, and execute. Including somebody you have no idea who they are. They're just somebody who's browsing your computer using, the web. Okay? If there's an R on those last three digits, that means that somebody outside can read that file. If there's a W, that means somebody outside can execute that, write that file. That's almost something you never would want, right? You don't want somebody who knows where just browsing the web to be able to write on top of your file and execute. Oh, by the way, that could be, that write permission, maybe something like Facebook or something like that has the ability to set files, where somebody who's just browsing can make changes, but that's not something you're going to want with just your static web page. And execute means like as in somebody external could run it. Again, that's generally not something you would want. You can change these permissions. You can change the permissions of any file that you are the owner of using the chmod command. Chmod means change mode. And the syntax of it is kind of interesting. Chmod, you get these strings after it like chmod A plus R. A plus R means all gain read. So, and then you give the name of the file you want. Like in this case, I'm going to say scrib star. That means any file that starts with the word scrib, which in this case is just the word scribbles.pdf or whatever. A plus R, scrib star, means all users will gain read permission. And notice what happened after I did that command. See how all now have read permission? I could say chmod A minus R scrib, and now all have lost read permission on scrib star. And notice if I look over here at my permission string, not only have all lost it, the world, but the group has lost read permission, and so has the user, the owner. I created this file, scribbles.pdf, but I can't even read it. Okay, I can change the permissions back, but right now I would literally not even be able to read that file. It is locked down. Chmod A plus RWX, that is all users gain read, write, and execute permission. Oh my goodness, that basically says anybody can do anything they want to that file. And look what happened to the permission string. RWX, RWX, RWX. My file now means anybody who's on this computer, whether I know them or not, can read the file, write the file, or execute the file. Not in general something you would want, but it could be that way. So you want to make sure that if you are trying to do this, the files that you're trying to share in the public HTML directory do need to be able to be read by all. Let me just show you how this could cause you interesting opportunities and problems. So like for example, if I just right now in my public HTML directory did ls minus last, look at my index.html file. It has read, look at its permissions. the owner has read, write, but not execute permission. You don't execute HTML files anyway, so this is no problem. And I don't care about groups, so don't worry about groups. But the people outside of the world, out on the browser, they can read that file. So if they're browsing the web and they come across shruggij.ddns.net/student315, they can read index HTML, but they can't write to it and they can't execute it. So if I go over here and I say refresh this, they can read this